Hi guys, welcome back to the workshop. After the last video I put up there regarding chainsaw sharpening, I got to thinking about one particular aspect of the advice that I gave. That particular aspect was that when you're sharpening a chainsaw chain, that you should select the shortest tooth and sharpen the rest of them down to that level. And the logic behind that is to ensure that all teeth are scooping out the same amount of material from each side of the cut and thus maintaining a straight cut as you go down through a piece of wood. A chainsaw bar is obviously rigid and it can't cut in an arc. So if the left teeth or the right teeth are longer than one another, what it'll do is it'll cut one direction or the other direction and create an arc which will bind up the chain on the bar and create a lot of heat. Now that got me thinking as to what level the damage to a tooth or a small number of teeth would do to a saw. And is it a case that if you damage one tooth, that the saw is immediately starting to cut crooked and causing you problems, or is there a sort of a forgiveness there as regards the chain is flexible to some degree on the bar and so on and so forth? So what I'm going to do today now is sort of something slightly different. Is we're going to make up a new chain. I have a reel of chain here. I have my tools for making that up here. I have a rivet breaker here and a rivet spinner further down the back as well. I also have a new bar. This is an Oregon bar. And I'll just put that into frame there now, if I can. Right. And what we can see on that bar, I know it's a bit crooked, but we have 15-inch bar, which is 38 centimeters, 0.050, which is the width of the guide on the bar, which is 1.3 millimeters. This is a 0.325-inch chain, and there's 64 drive links on it. So our bar matches up with the sprocket on the saw, and then the chain is 95 VPX, which has all these characteristics for running it properly. So what we'll do is we'll stick a new bar in the chainsaw, we'll make up a new chain with 64 drive links, and that'll mean then that we'll have 16 left teeth and 16 right teeth. What we'll do is we'll take a test cut after putting the new chain and bar on to make sure that we're cutting straight. And then what I'll do is I'll come back into the workshop, put it on a chain grinder, and then grind down half of one of the teeth. We went through it before there, where there's there's a witness mark at the back of the tooth, which tells you two things. Number one, the correct angle for filing the tooth. And secondly, that's sort of a last stop area. As soon as you get to that witness mark at the back, that's the end of the tooth as regards cutting, because there won't be any hook on it or anything left. So what we'll do is we'll measure one of those on a new chain. We'll grind it back to halfway and we'll take a test cut. And we'll see then, does that result in a crooked cut by the chainsaw? If not, what we'll do is we'll come back in and do a second one and a third one until the point comes whereby we have call it a marked arc made in the cut that we're making. The next stage after that then is to see how we can fix that. Obviously you could take out the individual teeth, break the rivets out of the chain and stick in a new section of chain if you had to, but when you're in the middle of a forest doing a day's work, the key goal is to get through what you have to do and get home and probably do your repairs at home, same as the rest of us. So what we'll do is we'll file down teeth to the point where we're getting a good arc cut in the wood. The first step we'll do then, and there's a bit of discussion about this, I saw it there on various YouTube videos and channels, that will say if we file down the depth gauges in front of the damaged teeth, theoretically then that tooth should cut the same scoop of wood out of the material and again sort of help us correct the damage we've done. So we'll have a look at that. If that doesn't work, what we'll do then, just to have a look at things, is I'll file down the corresponding side of the chain. So let's say if I file down 3 left teeth first to create an arc. After that then file down the depth gauge to see does that take some of that arcing out of the equation. And if it doesn't, what we'll do then is we'll file down 3 teeth on the right hand side and the depth gauges obviously as well with them to see does that balance up the chain. Now obviously we're running the chain out of manufacturer specifications, so there's going to be side effects there. Either the chain will wear quicker, the remaining teeth will wear quicker, or possibly there could be a bit more vibration. But I just want to have a look at this and see, is there any way of fixing this in the field, and to see, you know, what impact one tooth has, two teeth has, three teeth has, etc., etc. So I would stress straight away that this is not a scientific test, nor am I any type of expert in saw chain design or operation. But what we will do is just have a look at it and see where we go, okay? Right, here we are set up in the yard. What I've done is I've found a piece of wood which is 6 inches thick and 10 inches wide, thick wide. I've leveled this up as best I could with a spirit level on the forks of the telehandler in both planes, so it's reasonably level this way and that way. So what we'll do is, we have a brand new chain on the saw and a new bar, so that should cut straight. So what I'm going to do is just rest it on top there and just let it follow the cut down. I won't be grabbing the top hand, or I'll be holding it but not trying to steer it or anything like that. I'll try and let the saw do the work itself. What we'll do then is, as soon as we've established that our saw will cut straight, and this is a sort of a chunky enough bit of wood, 10 inches by 6 inches is a good lump of wood, you know, it's not too unrepresentative of a log. I specifically did it this way so that if there is an arcing, that we'll be able to see it against the lines. So we'll cut, and before I do, I'll just make sure I'll hold the chainsaw against a piece of wood over here somewhere, well, not against it, but just next to it, and make sure that it's throwing off oil, okay? And I'll probably blank the audio from here because it'll deafen you otherwise. So our chainsaw anyway, we prime it first, 2 or 3 pumps of the primer bulb, choke on, and we'll pull it a few times until we get a fire. Right, there's our fire. Choke off, pull again. Right, there's our first cut, and we'll have a look at that now. And there's no area where we didn't hit the line, so if we look at that now, that's a reasonably good straight cut there. Just a touch of an arc, but I don't think that was related to the teeth on the saw. Right, what we'll do now is we'll go in and we'll file off half a tooth and see what happens there then. Now we're set up here. I took the chain off the chainsaw and I put it into the chain grinder, and behind I have my specs. I don't know whether the camera will catch that now or not, but I have the specs for the chain written on a board behind the grinder. This one is actually set up already for 95 VPX. I use 2 types of chains, 95 VPX being one of them. And what we'll do here now is adjust this so that we're taking off a substantial section of chain. Hopefully about half is where we want to be, okay? Right, away we go. Right, we're back outside again now. We have one tooth filed down, and we have not done the depth gauge on that tooth. Now, I re-emphasize here, this is hardly scientific by any means. The piece of wood that we're cutting is incredibly dry. It doesn't represent a fresh felled tree or anything like that. So all we're doing is just having a look and see is there anything that we can spot. So away we go. Right, having a look at it there, our second piece of wood came out pretty much as straight as our first cut. So what we'll do now is we will go in and grind off 2 more teeth. Each tooth, there's 16 left teeth and 16 right teeth on a 64 drive link saw chain. So each tooth should theoretically be worth about 6.25% of your cutting ability. So what we'll do is we'll try and exaggerate this a bit quicker, and given the fact that we're cutting through such dry timber. And if we knock off 3 teeth on the left hand side, that should theoretically give us a sort of an 18 to 20% reduction in the cutting of the left teeth. And as we're going down through the piece of wood, the left teeth are cutting less than the right teeth. The right teeth will be on this side, and what you'll do is you'll be scooping out more and to be pushing that way, okay? Right, we're back again now, and what I did was file down 2 additional teeth. So what we have now is 3 left teeth, which are filed back to half or less of their original length. So we'll try this again now and see, does this illustrate the arcing problem for us. Right, we're starting to see a result now. One tooth wasn't enough to demonstrate it fully, but what you can see there, I'll just give that a rub, is that our left teeth are not cutting properly, so the right teeth are scooping more from the right hand side of the cut, and they're pulling the cut then to the right. And effectively what I'm doing is just leaving the chainsaw on the top of the cut, trying to get it straight just by eye more than anything else, and then just barely grasping the top handle to let the chain do what it's supposed to do, or let it follow its own path, so to speak. So we can see there that there's a significant arcing there. I'd say if we looked at it and we weren't dealing with wood as a medium, we'd probably see some effect from one tooth being gone. So the first cut, and we didn't really see a whole lot, was 6.25% reduction in cutting efficiency on the left hand side of the cut, and what we're looking at here is a 20% reduction in efficiency. So my next test now, and I've been told now, whether or not it stands to reason or not, that if you lower the depth gauges, which we haven't done yet on the 3 damaged teeth, is that those 3 teeth should theoretically scoop out additional material. So what we'll do now is I'll drop the depth gauges down to 0.025 of an inch, I think. On this chain, I'll look it up now and make sure that I'm doing it right. And see, does that sort of correct our cut? Now, looking at it logically, if we look at the chain there, when the bar is pressing down, the chain will be in against the bar, and there isn't much sort of play up and down. So if there's 3 teeth shorter, theoretically those 3 teeth won't meet the wood at all, whether or not there's a depth gauge there or not. So there's definitely sort of some question over that particular side of it. But what we'll do is we'll drop the depth gauges on those 3 damaged teeth, see does that sort of help our cut. And then what we'll do is, if that doesn't affect our cut and sort of straighten it up a bit, what we'll do is we'll remove 3 right hand teeth and the depth gauges at the same time, and what we'll have then is 3 damaged teeth on the left hand side of the bar, 3 damaged teeth on the right hand side of the bar, but all theoretically set to the correct depth gauge. And we'll just see where it goes. It's more of this video is more of a sort of starting a conversation on this rather than anything else. I'm sure that what you call it, real world experience is going to be different. Right, here we go again now. What I did was I took in the saw, dropped the depth gauges. You probably won't see them here now, but we'll say there's shiny little points there in front of each of the damaged teeth. There, yeah. And drop them down to 0.025. So what we'll do now is we'll run another cut and see did dropping the depth gauges take some of the impact of the 3 damaged teeth away from the cut. Right, if we take our first cut with 3 damaged teeth, there's a significant riding to the right. And there's less of it then in the second cut. Again, this isn't scientific. You want to be running multiple cuts in fresh timber to try and emulate, or try and establish something properly. Anyway, just for illustration's sake. So by the look of it, taking the depth gauges down on those 3 damaged teeth certainly pulled it back a bit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to grind down 3 right-hand teeth and set the depth gauges on them correctly as well, and see can we get a straight cut out of theoretically damaged chain. Right, that's after filing 3 left teeth, 3 right teeth, and what we're looking at there is a fairly serious improvement back to straightness. Obviously we're a touch off there, but it is getting better. So the conclusion that I draw out of this is that number one, you don't, let's say if you get stuck in the middle of a day's work or in the middle of the forest, you can remedy the problem just with a handheld file and a flat file for doing your depth gauges, as opposed to having to come back to a workshop and file every tooth down to the level of your shortest tooth. Again, this is far from scientific. We're doing this on a very dry piece of timber, handheld, so if I'm not starting the cut straight, that's obviously going to be reflected in the cut as well. But what we might do now is I'll swap over this piece of wood for, call it a good size log, and throw it up on top of the telehandler and just see, does it sort of cut some way straight, or does the chain bind up in the middle of it. Okay, right, here we are now. I stuck a log up on the forks of the telehandler. It's far from straight or level, but we'll see can we get through it now with a saw or saw chain with 6 heavily damaged teeth, we'll call it. Now, I suppose bear in mind, when we're doing this as well, I'm doing this on a chain grinder, so the actual teeth, although they're shorter, they're certainly sharp. Okay, so away we go. Now, looking at our log, it's certainly cutting. I can see a touch of an arc there, but nothing too severe, and it's not slowing the chain down. So if I was stuck in a forest for a day, I'd certainly be able to recover and finish the job, or fell whatever tree if I had to. So just to summarize now, this video is definitely just sort of to open up a conversation about chains and damaged teeth and so on and so forth, because the sort of the orthodoxy there is that you, I suppose, looking at it realistically as well, it's the proper way to do it, is that you pick your shortest tooth and you chain, or you file all the other teeth down to match that, so that you have equal left and right teeth. But the object of this is just to see whether it's possible to recover in a, call it an emergency situation, or if you've one chain and you need to finish off a tree to get the job done, there's certainly sort of scope there to pull back some of that damage and recover and get the job done. All right, any questions, stick them in the comments down there at the bottom. There's bound to be a few questions, or a few people who make observations, but we'll open up the conversation anyway. All right, thanks, bye.